Phalanx formation, ancient Greece. Simple but effective. Rows of soldiers with shields and spears marched shoulder to shoulder, forming a human wall. This tactic relied on discipline and unity, not individual skill. The Macedonians, under Philip II and Alexander the Great, perfected it with longer spears called sarissas. Chariot warfare, Bronze Age to Persia, used in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and later by Persians. Chariots provided speed, height, and archery platforms. But they became useless once infantry tactics improved and terrain became a factor. Shock cavalry, medieval and Mongol. When armor evolved, heavy cavalry took center stage. Knights charged in tight groups to smash enemy lines. Meanwhile, Mongols used light cavalry with bows, riding fast horses, and using hit-and-run tactics. Their mobility was unmatched. Unlike Europe, Mongols preferred maneuver over brute force. Hammer and anvil, Alexander the Great. The classic setup: use infantry to pin the enemy, the anvil, and hit them with cavalry from the flanks, the hammer. Alexander used this at the Battle of Gaugamela to crush numerically superior Persian forces. Encirclement, Hannibal and Cannae. One of the oldest and most effective strategies: let the enemy push into the center, then close in from the sides and rear. Hannibal used this at Cannae to annihilate a larger Roman army. Hitler's generals used it again in World War II, calling it Kesselschlacht. Guerrilla warfare, ancient to modern asymmetrical. Fewer troops, more mobility. Hit, run, vanish. Used by Romans in Spain, by American revolutionaries, Vietnamese forces, Afghan insurgents. Guerrilla warfare doesn't win battles. It wears the enemy down over time. Siege warfare, always used, rarely fun. You surround a city, cut it off, and wait. Sometimes months. Siege towers, battering rams, catapults, trebuchets, and eventually cannons. All tools to break fortified positions. From the Siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE to the Siege of Leningrad in World War II, the goal remained the same: starve them or smash them. Naval blockade, economic chokehold cutting off supplies by sea. Britain used this against Napoleonic France and again in both world wars. Germany tried it with U-boats. It's not about fighting. It's about starving the enemy economy. Naval blockades can win wars without a single land battle. Pincer movement, double envelopment, divide and destroy. Used by Hannibal, again by Napoleon, and then by modern mechanized armies. Let the enemy push into a weak center, then hit both flanks and meet behind them. Surround, squeeze, annihilate. Feigned retreat, trick tactic. Pretend to run, let the enemy chase, then ambush. Mongols used it with devastating effect. So did the Parthians against the Romans at Karhi, where they pretended to flee and then rained arrows from horseback. Scorched earth, burn everything. Leave nothing for the enemy. Used by Russians against Napoleon and again in World War II against Hitler. The goal isn't to win battles, but to destroy supplies, slow the enemy, and let nature finish them off. Trench warfare, stalemate tactics. Popularized in World War I but seen earlier: dig in, hold ground, use barbed wire, machine guns, and artillery to prevent enemy advances. Brutal, slow, and often pointless. Millions died gaining or losing a few meters. Blitzkrieg, fast and relentless German strategy in World War II. Tanks punch through weak points, planes bomb behind enemy lines, infantry follows fast. It's about speed and disruption. France fell in weeks because of it. Blitzkrieg is not a long war tactic. It only works if the enemy collapses quickly. Island hopping, World War II. Pacific U.S. strategy to bypass heavily defended Japanese islands. Capture one, skip the next, isolate the rest. It was a war of logistics and airfields, not just soldiers. Air superiority. 20th century onward: control the skies, control the ground. Once planes became lethal, wars changed. In World War II, the Allies bombed Germany's industrial centers. In modern wars, drones, satellites, and jets make it nearly impossible to hide. Shock and awe, modern psychological warfare. US used it in Iraq in 2003. The idea: overwhelm the enemy with firepower, noise, and speed so they collapse mentally before they can resist physically. It's fast, brutal, and media-driven. Proxy wars, Cold War and beyond. One power funds or arms one side, another backs the other. Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Syria. It's war by remote control. The real powers never meet directly. Locals pay the price. Cyber warfare, 21st century tactic. No guns, just code. Hack the enemy's infrastructure, leak their secrets, disrupt elections or power grids. It's invisible, deniable, and already happening. Psychological warfare, old but gold, used by Sun Tzu, Genghis Khan, and modern militaries. Spread fear, misinformation, lies. Convince the enemy they've already lost. Sometimes psychological tactics win wars before the first bullet is fired. Suicidal tactics, kamikaze, and beyond. When you can't win, make the enemy pay. Kamikaze pilots in World War II were not random. They were trained to target ships strategically. Today, suicide bombings and martyr tactics follow the same idea. Sacrifice one to disrupt many. Drone swarms. The future dozens, hundreds of cheap drones acting as one. Used in Ukraine and tested globally. They overwhelm defenses and change the math of modern combat. One man with a controller can take out a tank.